It's the Two Gems Podcast.
I have a bit of the jitters because I haven't eaten. Have you eaten?
No.
Oh, God. Okay. Open your drink. Welcome to episode 6 of the Two Gems Podcast. I'm Sheridan.
And I'm Matthew.
I just realized I have a mint in my mouth, and that's not good while I'm trying to eat with my Invisalign. I should probably take it out.
You have your Invisalign in?
But
Are you doing this episode with your Invisalign in?
no, but the little
The
things
little nubs on your teeth.
are really, really hard to chew stuff with sometimes.
So here we are, episode 6.
Episode 6. Go.
Can you believe we have 5 hours behind us at least? Probably more like 6 hours behind us now.
I actually can absolutely believe it because we like to talk a lot. But that is definitely an accomplishment. Especially,
Go team.
I know. I felt like it was just something in our heads for so long, and now that we actually have done it is very exciting.
I almost feel like our relationship, like the communication between us is better now. Like I feel like we like talking deeper. Like the other night we laid in bed for like an hour and like decompressed and chatted about the barbecue that we had with the family and like just chatted.
That stuff is actually so important. I think sometimes you just get so tired and you don't feel like doing it and you just want to roll over. But I find those pillow talk conversations are so important.
Yeah.
I do. Why are you giggling?
You're like a robot over there. I
just don't want to have the jitters without why I drank so much coffee. But it's true. Yeah. I think that those pillow talk conversations are so superior, like to your relationship and to everything, because I think at the end of the day, especially like we are, fortunate that we get to be around each other. Fortunate most of the time.
Too much.
But, a lot of couples come together like after, their busy day at work, and those pillow talk chats are so good.
They are really good.
Yeah.
It's super important to talk.
So important.
It's just like, I find especially in our life because we spend so much time around each other, none of it's like quality time. I just see you a lot.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes a lot of sense. So it kind of feels like we're always like close, but we're not, because we have those quick chats or like a quick lunch break or whatever.
Yeah, like I pass you in the kitchen 500 times a day, but we don't actually have like quality time, where I think maybe I'm making an assumption of like most people that come home after the 5 o'clock job or whatever would come home and like then they have like wholesome conversations with their partner because they haven't seen them all day. Where like by the time we get the kids to bed, normally I'm like, I've seen enough of you.
Yeah.
But
this actually reminds me of when we were in the thick of it, when the kids were like babies, Kai and Theo. And
are we not in the thick of it?
We are, but I feel like now we've kind of figured it out. But like when we were really going through it with Kai and Theo, I just remember a lot of the time that it just felt like you were kind of my roommate, like I'd pass you along the side and I'd be like, hey, how are you? Like it was weird that I missed you so much, even though you were right across from me. So.
I love how you're saying that we have it figured out. You didn't look like you had two figured out at dinner last night.
What was dinner last?
Oh my God. We were at
Fry Daddy's in Sackville.
Fry Daddy's in Sackville. And we took the kids to the splash pad like probably around dinner. So by the time we got to Fry Daddy's, it was basically bedtime for the kids. Mm-hmm. And we sat out on the patio there and we had fish and chips and fries and ice cream and stuff. And like everyone watching, and there apparently was like mutual friends amongst people that saw us and everything. And like watching us through the window, just like saw like cataclysmic meltdowns happening outside.
It's
and like
just mayhem
it
when
was
we go.
so funny. It was so funny. Like Sheridan, I'm kind of like of the ilk, like I don't really care that much. I probably push us a little too hard sometimes. Like I'm the type of person that's just like, frig it, let's just go to dinner anyway and let's just go sit down at Jack Astor's or whatever. And like you're probably more like, it would be a lot easier to go home and not do this, and then I kind of push us into it. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we're sitting out there on the patio and like kids are freaking out and they're fighting over who's gonna get the vinegar on the fries, and Kaya won't even eat anything because the vinegar touched her fries. And
Sage
then,
is climbing up of the gate.
Sage is going up over the fence, and then at one point I just remember like when Sheridan's like having a complete breakdown, like, and she's just like taking a deep breath, and then she looks over at me, and over my shoulder was Sage's bare ass cheek, like anus spread, because Theodore had grabbed his pants and diaper and ripped them down while he was trying to get over the railing. So like right next to my face is just Sage's ass cheeks. It was so funny.
I'm like, it's time to go.
Yeah, Sharon's like, let's wrap it up.
It's
bud.
time. I'm not embarrassed.
Before we get a divorce.
I remember when again, back when the kids were younger, I'd be embarrassed sometimes about parenting and stuff. I'm not embarrassed anymore, ever, actually. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, there's probably somebody looking out and seeing Sage's butt and how Theo pulled his pants down trying to help him up over.
Yeah.
But, like, who cares? That's
Not
how I
me.
feel now. Because, like, I know I'm a good parent and I'm not worried about being judged by other people at all. And I think that comes with time, right? Because I definitely remember at the beginning, Kaya used to cry so much. Poor little Krya. Yeah. And I was so nervous because I was a new mom and I didn't know how to handle situations like that. And I was always worried about what other people thought. So I remember when we lived over in Dartmouth, I'd walk her down to 2 by Sea. It was my routine because you were at work and I was on maternity leave. And I'd walk her down and I'd like specifically time it. So I only had like the amount of her nap time. Like, so she would not wake up, because if she woke up, she'd be crying and I'd be panicking and I wouldn't know what to do. It's just funny how like you kind of grow as a parent like that. Now I'm like, we'll just roll with it, right?
Yeah.
But it definitely takes time to get there, I think.
Life was so simple then, wasn't it?
Sure was.
And it's all relative.
But
I'm
it
sure
didn't feel that way.
No, it felt crazy then with
Yeah.
one child. But like, I just think about how like simple our little lives were then. Like, we lived in Dartmouth and it was like in like a quaint little neighborhood and you could like stroll her down to Tibbs and everything. And like, it's just like,
Well, it's funny that-
it felt like it wasn't even this life. Like,
Right. I know. It feels like a lifetime ago, because it kind of really was a lifetime ago. But it's funny how you say that, whereas for me, like, I was definitely struggling as a new mom and having a really hard time. It's just funny, your perspective and my perspective, because it was like easy breezy in a sense, but also like I even remember trying to breastfeed Kaya and how it wasn't working and I would just cry. I remember a couple times actually, you came home from work and I was still up in bed. Remember that?
Yeah.
And he'd be like, Sheridan, what are you doing here? I'm like, I just don't want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
Like I was having a hard time. But yeah, it was easier in a sense. Like, you know, we were younger and had just Kaya. And anyway.
I don't even know if easier is the right way to put it. Maybe I worded that wrong, but it was more so like that life that we lived is so different from the life we live now.
Yeah.
Like we're in the country now. For people that don't know, we live out in Hubli, and it's we're still in a community here, but it's in the woods.
Right.
And like when you look out in our driveway and around our house, like you don't see other homes. We're in a forest here, and like when Kaya was first born, we lived in the city. Like we lived in we were in Creighton Park in Dartmouth, and like everything was at our fingertips. Like you could walk down to Micmac Mall for lunch. It would take you like 1 minute to walk down there, and like it was just totally different.
Well, I actually really, really liked that. I feel like I made a sacrifice for you when we decided to move out here, because I grew up in the suburbs and I loved it. I loved it. I'm nervous being alone. You know that. Like up until this year, I've still been nervous, even with the kids. I just don't like being alone.
At least Theo's a white belt in judo, though.
True. I just don't like being alone. It makes me feel uncomfortable. I think I've gotten better now. I don't know why, but I definitely still struggle.
I'm used to it.
And I liked the environment of having your neighbors close, of hearing those cars. It just made me feel safe, especially like how I grew up. And I remember I'd open the window in the summer and I'd hear the lawnmower going and kids playing outside, and I love that. So I definitely feel like I made a sacrifice coming out here. But you also grew up, in Hubbard's, which was a lot different. You were still in like a community though. Like,
Well, it's funny because my life in Hubbard's was only 6 years long. So like I also grew up in a very similar situation to you, actually in the same city. Like I grew up in Ottawa in a very residential neighborhood.
in Gloucester.
Yeah, and it's kind of an interesting thing because like even though there would be more of a racket there, like there was a lot of like sirens and hustle and bustle and stuff. You know that term like the silence is deafening? Like sometimes you go out in the woods and there's something like
Eerie.
yeah, there's something about that too. Like
Absolutely.
And you kind of get like acclimated to whatever your situation is. If you live in the city a lot and then you leave, it's like it's weird. And then if you live in the country a lot and then you go for a long time, and then you go into the city, it's like, what is happening in here? Like you kind of just get used to your surroundings.
That's such a great point, because when we went to PEI and we stayed downtown Charlottetown, I was kind of spooked out a little bit when I would see people and hear stuff, which is so strange, because you're right. When I would have lived before, I wouldn't have felt that way. And then I come home and I'm like, the silence.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all relative. But
Wait,
go
what
ahead.
are you doing?
Sorry.
Are you jumping into stuff?
No, you go ahead.
You have like an itinerary, don't you?
No, I was going to pull up my itinerary sort of, and what I have as loose notes, but I guess, I could also like take a moment here to say that our podcast is completely unscripted and unfiltered, and we just come here, we sit down, and we're like, we'll chat on the podcast. See you
I
then.
love that though.
No, me too. I do like it.
Because since we started this, I've spent a fair bit of time not even so much listening to a lot of other podcasts, but I go into the reviews a lot and see what people say about them. And I can see like a lot of people's feedback within the review section on Apple Podcasts is like, it's so scripted. They're checking in and checking out. They're here for ad revenue. Like I see this a lot.
Right.
And I feel like you and I, at this current juncture, this podcast makes us nothing. Like hopefully it will eventually. We can kind of like, infiltrate the ad space a little bit. But like for the most part, I mean, we just come in here unscripted, unfiltered, and just shoot the shit. And I think that really resonates with people. We've gotten some interesting feedback so far. I mean, like people have said that I talk over Sheridan too much.
He does.
We're learning, right? I've never done this before. I've never in my life spoken on a microphone until we sat down at episode 1. And so like we're learning how to make this work. And sometimes I almost think like when we interrupt each other, that's kind of like a part of the charm. Yeah, it's a part of the charm of the show a little bit, I think, is that like this is literally just a couple sitting down in front of microphones. But, I'm learning, you're learning. I don't know what you're learning, but I have things to improve upon, which is a perfect segue to something I wanted to do.
Okay. What did you want to do?
Grabbing this mic. Yeah. I really wanted to lay a sincere apology out to, I'm apologizing on the podcast.
We love to see it, hon.
You're so cute. You do look really cute today, by the way.
Thank you.
I know I say it every episode, but
I was gonna say somebody mentions it every time. They're like, Matt always says you look so cute. I'm
like today you're really like,
oh,
damn girl.
Okay.
Damn. But I wanted to apologize to everybody that I offended by saying that tattoos can be trashy on women. It was I don't want to spend much time talking about this, but it was such an asshole thing to say. I think, as Sheridan just said, like this show is very unscripted and very unfiltered, and you put a microphone in me long enough and I'm bound to say something that might offend somebody. And I feel like I could have gotten my point across a lot more gracefully, and I walked away from that. And like, every episode, obviously, like when we finish it up, like I have to go through and edit it. So like in slow motion, I'm watching it word for word, kind of splicing things together. And when I heard that back, I cringed and I was like, what a douchey thing to say.
Right.
It was such an asshole thing to say. So for all the women out there that I offended by that, I'm sorry. Well, it was such a stupid thing to say.
And we actually talked about it when we got off camera, and I absolutely said all of those things to you, and you totally agreed. And I said, I think it's fair that you perhaps don't gravitate towards women with tattoos, which is kind of funny because at this point you're an anomaly if you don't have a tattoo. Yeah. Like I remember listening to you say this, and I'm like, you are offending every woman on planet Earth, basically.
Yeah, the new tattoo is no tattoos.
Right. But you could have just said, this is just not my thing. Everybody's attracted to different things, right? There's a difference between thinking something's trashy and just not being attracted to. And which I think is what you wanted to say. It just
came out. That is what I wanted to say.
It just came out.
It came out horrendously. And I'm sorry.
Great.
There. I've apologized for the first time on our show.
Matt apologizes a lot, IRL, by the way, guys. So this is great that he did it on the podcast.
I truly live my life without regrets, and I always will. Like I speak about that often. Like I have probably, I don't know, how many tattoos do I have? 500 of them, and nothing's a cover-up. And I think that's kind of a testament to it. Like I really try and live my life, and I've got some shitty tattoos, but like I really try and live life like it was a part of me at one point. And like if I freak something up in life, I learn from it. And I really truly hold that mantra that I live life without regrets. I really try to. And so yeah, I think that having watched that back, I cringed, and I will never say those words again. It was brutal. Sorry.
It's funny you talk about, never covering anything up or never hiding anything, because I remember when we first got together and your Instagram, and actually even still now to this day.
Do not scroll too far.
No, but if you scroll down, there's still pictures of you and your ex and your relationship and your whole life together. And I remember at one point I was like, Matt, what? Like I had to delete all my pictures with my ex.
You didn't have to.
No, I know, but I did from my past relationship. There had to be no evidence, right, of my past relationships, because that just was unacceptable. Yeah. But now I'm kind of upset about it because I'm like, man, I wish I had those memories.
Yeah.
But when you first said that, or when I first saw that, and I was like kind of offended that you wouldn't delete it. But now I'm like, I kind of love that you have that mentality because it was a part of your life.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, everyone's that would be like sitting there and having someone write a book of your life and sitting there and like ripping chapters out and being like, I don't want anyone to know that stuff, or like I regret those pieces and stuff, when really like that's a part of your novel. It's a part of your story.
Made
and like
you
there's
who you
ups, there's
are.
downs. Yeah, for sure.
Totally.
By the time you get to the end of the book, people can kind of like understand your story because they were
So
there
true.
for all of it, rather than like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Why am I even bringing that up? I just like to live life without regrets. And so anyway, I think it's really important that if you drop the ball in life or if you frig something up, if you learn from it, then it's all good.
I agree.
And so having watched that back, I'm going to say it one more time. I'm sorry, because it was just, oh my God, it was like cringeworthy when I watched it back. So anyway, let's move along. I love everybody. My heart's in the right place. I just, I could package it up a little better sometimes.
That's true. So back to it being unfiltered and unscripted. Obviously, sometimes we go off on some tangents. Sometimes we talk over each other. It's just how it's rolling right now.
Yep.
And that's kind of what I wanted when I came, like when we decided we wanted to do this podcast. I really wanted people to get the vibe of what it's like when it's just us hanging out chatting, because Instagram and the community I've built, I'm very
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. I was just angling your mic.
I'm very proud of the community I've built, and I think that I have a really safe space for people and they feel like they know me. But Instagram is also still curated no matter what. I don't hop on lives and chat. Like, I don't do that kind of stuff. And stories, you can redo them and that kind of stuff. But the whole point of this podcast was that we just really wanted to feel like you're hanging out with some friends at a table and shooting the shit.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Those are my favorite shows.
Well, I don't really watch a whole lot of podcasts, which I can't tell if that's hypocritical of me or not, but I'm trying to like dabble in it a little bit more. But that one we listened to on the way home from
Counterclock.
yeah, like that one it's a great,
So good.
what a cool idea and what an awesome podcast.
There's a lot of podcasts like that, by the way, but keep going.
Oh, is there?
Oh, yeah. God, yeah.
But what I was going to say was, like, because she's not doing like a YouTube thing where you can see us and what have you, she's probably just sitting there, obviously reading a story and making it make sense. And it sounds perfectly scripted, which is great. But that's just like not what we're up to over here.
Yeah, and, I think this is probably a lot like a talk show. That's how people would normally like categorize something like this. It's like Oprah sitting down with someone, or like if you watch The View in the morning, or like Regis and Kelly or something. Like there's bullet points. Like they kind of know, okay, we're going to talk about this, and this today, but there's absolutely nothing scripted, and that's kind of what this is. Like, I don't know. There's so many like true crime podcasts and stuff where people do like thousands of hours of research into things and then come in with something that's like heavily curated and they have like pretty much know what they're going to say. We're just like,
We're
winging this bad boy.
So it's like, why don't we talk about next?
Yeah.
Let me pull up my list. Okay, actually,
Nice day out, huh?
Yeah. No, but Matt will come in sometimes. He's like, Sheridan, okay, do you know what we're going to talk about? I'm like, I got this, hun. So today I said I got this, and now I'm pulling out my list of podcast topics. And there's just a whole bunch, but I'm going to see if I can try and make it so that some of them are at least in the same category.
I don't know what you wrote down. I'm excited to see.
Okay.
But, oh, excuse me. That drink is going right through me. Oh my God, I'm burping over here. Should we bring up anything about the open relationship thing and the feedback that we got on that, or is that like scrambled into your bullet list over there?
That's actually not into my bullet list at all, but I will say that Matt and I, again, about the podcast, like we've chatted about perhaps bringing guests on. We don't really know how we would do it because we only have 2 mics.
Well, and the setup. If we were going to do a guest show, and I think at some point we could figure out how to do it, but if we were going to do a guest show, like you would... Like the whole room would have to be modified. Like if someone was sitting next to me, they'd be out of frame with how the tripods are and the cameras and the sign. And
well, I was just gonna say, like, the open relationship thing. That we are obviously so uneducated with what's going on
in that space.
100%. And I did get some great feedback about a couple of people actually that are in Nova Scotia that are in open relationships and are more than willing to come on and chat with us. And I'm so excited about it because I think there's probably a lot of misconceptions. There's probably a lot of like, just like things that you would assume that happen that don't. And I just want to know. And like, I even chatted with this one person that I think, if we can figure it out, will come on and talk to us. And I said, like, my biggest thing is I just can't wrap my head around being okay with letting somebody else be with Matt. Like my brain can't understand it. So I'm just so excited to hear about what other people have to say. But what I was going to say was I did like this or that polls on my Instagram today, and I asked the question, well, somebody else posed the question, because you can, like, other people ask the questions and I just post them.
Yeah.
And somebody asked about open relationships, and I said,
Did they not see our show?
well, I don't
Like
know,
that
but
just
I said,
came in randomly?
and I said the options you could choose were yep, nope, or thinking about it. And it looks like a small percentage because most people said nope, and the yep is only 2% and the thinking about it's 5%. But in actuality, the thinking about it are 220 votes and the yes are 85 votes. So there's like 300 people on my Instagram that follow me that are either thinking about being in an open relationship or are in one.
What?
That's what I'm saying. So it's like,
So hold on. What is the percent? Let me see the percentages again. So if 100 people lined up right now,
I don't know how
5 of them
yeah.
are thinking about doing it. And that means if you line 20 people up, one person's thinking about it.
So I think,
Which means if you line 10 people up, there's half a person.
I don't know math. You know I'm terrible at math. I failed.
I'm just thinking
almost
that's
in
actually
high
more
school.
than I would think.
Well,
like,
that's
what are they wanting an open relationship for?
And also though, I think too that perhaps people are saying nope that also don't actually mean nope. Like I'm sure there's a couple that are saying nope, but they either are thinking about it or whatever. So this is very exciting for me, and I'm really looking.
We'll
forward.
figure a way to do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, what were some of the things that people said back? I remember we were kind of laughing and kind of like, yeah.
Were we?
I think.
No,
Well, you've talked to a few people, and I had a couple people message me and stuff about it as well.
Well, you had a friend that said that they had a friend that would come on and talk no problem about it, and that
Yeah.
they have an OnlyFans and that they're in an open relationship, and like they are happy to chat about it.
Yeah.
Which is sort of funny because on the last episode you're like, they all hide, they don't want to come talk about it, but there of course are some that are willing to open up about it.
Oh, for sure. I was kind of generalizing. Like,
Yeah.
I think for the most part, they kind of like lurk in the shadows, but
Yeah.
then there's definitely some that are like, they wear it like a badge of honor. I
For
think
sure.
like they have an open relationship,
Right.
and that's cool. And I even follow people on Instagram that are like that too, and I won't name names, but they're definitely like, they openly have an
Yeah.
open relationship.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Still so interesting. I mean, we talked about this for like 20 minutes.
It was so good.
previously, and it was great. But I feel like I want to get somebody in here to actually chat about it. I don't think we can talk about it anymore between us.
I think sometimes, like, as when you do this and you have a show like this, there's I don't know how people perceive it, but there's so much stuff that's almost just kind of like generalized content. It's like we could talk about Colorado winning the cup the other day, and 95% of the people won't give a shit and
Yeah.
whatever. But like the idea of an open relationship is at least something that I bet you like 90% of the world has like
100%.
either wondered or like thought like, how could you? Or
Yeah.
like,
How
ain't
does
no
it
one
work?
else getting with my
Yep.
wife or whatever. Like it's at least something that everyone's like thought of at some point.
I totally
Which
agree.
is, that's why I think it's so interesting. It's
Same.
so fun to talk about because it's like
Same.
something I can't understand, but then other people just having a bomb time with it. It's
A question that I actually have here is, are either of you a jealous person? Which kind of ties into what we're talking about with an open relationship. And I guess you could answer that. Are you? No. What's with the drink spitting?
God, you always
Matt
get-
will get over it sometime, guys.
No, I won't.
At one point,
I never
here
will.
he
You always kind of get me right when I take a sip.
But are you a jealous
Frequent
person?
sipper.
Do you think?
I think I am.
Oh, there's a revelation.
No, I think I am. You know what it is?
Tell me.
Oh my God, the story that we heard on the weekend. Anyway,
What? What story?
at the bar,
Okay, yeah. Anyways, doesn't matter.
you're the man.
Okay.
No, just playing. Anyway,
We'll bleep
what a
these
freaking
names out.
story. No,
Go
we
ahead.
ain't bleeping anything. It's hilarious. God, I love you so much, bud. The jealousy thing, you know what I think it is? Why it does? Don't give me that look.
I'm not. I'm ready to hear.
You're looking at me over there.
I'm ready to hear.
We don't put ourselves in the situations to be jealous often. You know what I mean?
Well, we don't have the opportunity because you don't go to work and I don't.
Like,
go to
I'm not going to lie. Like, if you worked at an office space with a bunch of attractive humans around you all day, every day, would I be, like, wondering sometimes, like, who's checking her butt out at the water station or whatever? Like, absolutely. Would it bug me a little? Yes. Now, to further on that, because I want to say we touch on this at one point, but, like, I feel like I'm really awesome as a human.
Yeah.
And I think that if I'm giving you 100% all the time, then I shouldn't have too much to be jealous of, because if if something ever happened to us, then I know that I put my all into it. But yeah, I would say I'm a little bit of a jealous person for sure. And you're beautiful, and
do you
people
think
love
that
you.
your jealousy stems from your past relationship and how you were cheated on in a work environment and things like that? Do you think that maybe has something to do with it?
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but I think that even had that not happened, I mean, I think everyone has like a little seed of jealousy in there a little bit, I think.
Well,
I guess unless you're in the open relationship game, then
well,
we have some.
I don't think that I'm a very jealous person. I think now. Well, now. Okay. I think perhaps like when we first got together, I was, and there was definitely situations that happened where I was like, ugh. But I think now I'm thankful for my Instagram because I often show you off and I'll like post pictures of you or whatever. And like people will write me back and be like, Matt is such a hottie. And I'm like, I know. Like I'm not sitting there being like, how dare you, right? Yeah. Like that's my man. Like that's not it at all. And I actually think Instagram has helped me big time with just be like, yeah. And I think again, for me, it stems back to just being confident in our relationship. But if I was concerned in our relationship and I felt like perhaps we weren't, so great and that you were off doing whatever you were at work, then yeah, I'm sure I probably would get a little bit jealous and curious and that. But I think because we're, such a...
So let me paint a picture for you. So if 5 days a week I left here and didn't come home till the end of the day.
Yeah.
And there was 20 women in my workspace.
Right.
Would you ever wonder and be jealous about stuff?
Probably. Yeah. I'd probably just be sitting there like, ugh, because again, like I know that you're a great guy, and I'm sure somebody would have a crush on you. But I think again,
I'm sure someone would have a crush. I feel the same way about you.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone in there would just be like, I love her so much. Right. I want her more in my life.
Right. But you'd like to hope that people, and I know it's not always the case, but you'd like to hope the good in people and that they respect your boundaries with your relationship and your partner. That's what you'd like to hope, at least, and that you would.
It's hard though.
Yeah,
I think that would be a hard thing, for sure. And I mean, I don't know. Maybe that sounded kind of assholeish, but I'm just thinking like, people can slip up sometimes, and like something that we've said before is like there's a million people in this world that you could fall in love with and and build a great life with. So like I guess to your point, if you're really comfortable in your own skin and comfortable in your relationship and things are great, then why the frig would you ever stray somewhere? But if you have a relationship where it's like you're fighting 5 days a week and it sucks and you're not getting what you want out of it, then like I could easily see how you could go in. Because if you're starting to kind of like fall for someone in the office space a little bit, or someone that you're that you see at lunch break at a restaurant or something like that, I could see how that person would bring the best version of them to you. And then, I could kind of see how someone could be like, maybe life with her or him would be a little better than what I have going on at home.
Right.
So I think I'm actually validating your point, but also bringing up a new one.
Yeah.
It's I totally understand why some people cheat.
Yeah.
Their life sucks at home.
Right.
Not everybody, but I'm just saying like I could see how some people's life at home would suck. And then all of a sudden they see this temptation of someone else and it's like, it's sucking at home. This person's interesting.
Yeah.
And they're into me.
Right.
This could be fun.
Yeah.
But then you fast forward 7 years and you hate each other.
Yeah.
you know
so true. I mean? Well, another question that I have is, do you think you'll stay together forever?
Nice.
What? I'm like, where are you going with it?
You're posing these questions and looking as cute as you possibly can over there. I can tell you truthfully, are the first person that I've ever felt, like that I've been able to visualize us being old together.
Yeah.
And if I can visualize something, it's happening.
Yeah.
With everything in my whole life, if I can perfectly see something happening, it always manifests into reality. Mm-hmm. And we're gonna be old together, playing golf, roaming around Florida on little golf carts together, traveling and stuff. It's gonna be fantastic.
No, it's a great point.
How about you?
Well, I was gonna say that I actually always visualize my future with my partners. I did. Well, I just did.
Wow.
Because I would always think and wonder what the future held, and I would imagine it because I obviously at the time when I was in those relationships, I would have liked it to have ended like that.
Yes. Yep.
But it never felt like it was actually going to happen. The difference now is that when I was in those relationships with those people, I I would wonder, like, am I over them? Do I not want to be with them anymore? But then I'd think about the future, and I'm like, but that could be fun, right? Like, let's just figure it out.
Yeah.
But I don't feel that way with you at all. Like, I'm never like, oh, well, am I over it? Like, never. I'm never bored of you. We always have fun. And I think our biggest thing is that we're friends. So I don't see us ever, like, I would never want to lose my best friend.
Yeah.
I just love you. I love hanging out with you. We like to do the same things, which is so important. And I didn't really realize that because when I was growing up, my parents did not do a whole lot together beyond us going up to the cottage and having trips and stuff. But otherwise, I just grew up believing that, you know, my dad would go do sports and do his thing over there, and my mom would do her thing. And they had no activities that they liked to do together. Like, my mom would love to walk. My dad never went walking.
Yeah.
My dad would love to go
So
play
what
baseball.
are our activities?
Well, we just like to...
Because I agree with you. I'm just curious what you think they are. Because I think we live a simple life.
No, but sure. But we like to go for drives together. We like to go look at houses together. We like to go to the movies. Like, just things even like that we like to do together that they didn't do together.
Yeah.
And I just assumed that parents came together for the kids, right? Because when they were together...
Those are our activities. We really like going to my home.
We like
having
to go
cookies.
to the beach, but we like to do the same things.
You know what I was going to say to validate that?
Wow.
I think it's really important that when the excitement is done,
Right.
so like when I'm done my four-wheeling or motorcycling or whatever it is, like when the adrenaline stuff is done,
Yeah.
that I come home or you come home from whatever it is that you're doing with your friends and stuff, and like when there's nothing going on, you still really enjoy the person. It's not like you have to go in order to almost like mask this like this deep-rooted like not caring about your partner.
Yeah.
Like, I find when I get home from four-wheeling and stuff, like, I can't wait for a break of all the hustle and bustle and just relax with my wife and just shoot the shit and yeah, like when nothing's going on, I love your company.
Yeah.
And that's really important.
It's so
You know
important.
what I mean?
Oh my gosh, yes. Because I remember, again, in past relationships, like, let's say I was just like really attracted to the person, or we had like, you know, good chemistry. But then when it's time to actually like just hang out and sit around, it's like, man,
Yes.
this isn't it for me.
So when we went to Live Aqua, we were there for 7 or 8 days. I forget what it was, but
Yeah.
we did nothing.
Literally nothing.
And it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, it was so great just sitting next to you. And words don't even need to be said. You're just like my rock. You're just like, I'm comfortable next to you.
Yeah.
And like when you're beside me, I'm a better person.
Yeah.
Unless we're talking about tattoos.
No, but I completely 100% agree
Yeah.
with you. And that is a good example, because I think when you have all that time, just the two of you, and there's nothing to do,
Yeah.
you're not caught in the day-to-day of the routine that you have to, you know, play into when you're a parent or whatever, go to work, and it's just the two of you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when you're like, oh shit, am I going to
Yes.
love this? And obviously we knew we'd love it because we hang out often enough. But I think some couples, perhaps they do that and they're like, oh my God, I don't even want to be here with you.
Yeah.
Right?
We've almost like unearthed something here. That's really interesting. Maybe there's like some insight there. It's like how you truly know if you're like, if you love your partner, like because the movies are always going to be fun.
Right.
Like going boating is always going to be fun. Like going on a trip, probably more often than not going to be fun.
Right.
How is your relationship when none of that's happening?
Yeah. That's
Like when
true.
you're just sitting there at a table together.
Yeah.
I love you
Here
around
we
our
are, yeah.
I love you around our table.
Okay, so here's another one into it, kind of how you envision your life when your kids are grown, empty nester plans. And that's a good segue because, as we're saying, I think a lot of times parents and whatever, and they're in a relationship and they're just going through it, and then they come out on the other side and they're like, oh my,
Yeah.
who are you? What's
know.
going on here? But like for me, I'm actually, you know, I had Kaya. I was pregnant with Kaya when I was 25.
Is that what you were, 5?
I was 25. No, I was 24.
What were you?
Well, anyway.
How freaking old are you?
Well, I'm 33.
So
but
you must have been 26 when you had Kaya then.
I gave birth, but I had just turned 26, right?
yeah,
'Cause-
okay.
Right. And that, in my opinion, I felt young. I felt
were
young
young,
because
yeah.
I was the first one of my friends to be pregnant, which was kind of lonely at times. Exciting because everyone thought it was so cool, but also, you know, I didn't really have anyone to talk to. At the time, Instagram wasn't really popping off where you could follow people and feel less alone. I had my little Facebook group that saved me, honestly.
Little Bumble account.
Yeah. Oh my God.
You'll never live
And
it down.
Yeah. But see, now I lost my train of thought. Thanks a lot, Matt.
No, you were lonely and you
Keep going.
you
yeah.
lost me too.
Oh my.
No,
but
no, you were basically saying that you. Sorry, oh my God, what an asshole! I'm cutting you off here. People are saying that in our reviews. I cut you off too often.
Yeah, write it again, guys. So Matt will learn his lesson for next time.
Oh, only 5 stars.
No, but I was saying that I was lonely. I felt alone. That I was young. Okay, now I brought it back. Thanks. Don't do it again.
Okay, I'll look over this.
Yeah, no, but I felt young when I had Kaya, and I remember feeling sometimes left out of what was going on. I would see people traveling. I would see my friends doing other stuff, going out to party, and not that I even care about partying, but it's just that feeling of you can't do it, right? But I would always think, and I still think, how excited I am for when the kids are older. Of course, I don't want to rush time, but I can't wait until it's just the two of us and we can actually go and explore. And for you, I mean, you haven't traveled. You've been traveling now, but you haven't traveled, all over. And I've been lucky enough that I've been able to travel around.
Yeah.
And I know how incredible it is. Even like I think back to Greece, and I was literally being broken up with every 2 seconds, like on my phone while trying to see the Santorini sunset. And even at that point, I thought it was so incredible. And I remember thinking in Greece, holy shit, if this is the worst moments of my life as I'm getting cheated on and broken up with back in Ottawa, and I still think that Greece is this incredible, it has to be the most beautiful place on earth.
You know what we're going to have to do before we get too old?
What?
I got to take some dance lessons.
Yeah.
We got to go out. I'm just picturing us like wine and dine and
it's
dancing.
just
So it's going to be great.
Traveling is so fun.
Getting old's gonna be bomb.
And it's so cool because sometimes you get so in your head with where you live and what's going on. And then you go somewhere else and you're like, wow, life exists beyond Hubli, And does it ever exist? And people are living like this day to day, just like how we are back at home. But
I find...
Go ahead.
Cut you off again. Thought you were done.
I was just going to say that traveling is so incredible.
It's humbling, eh?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Is that all you You cut me off just
no. I'm just going to throw it in there. And it's...
But anyway, our plans, I would say, when we are empty nesters, I have this visual. So in my mind, I've made up my mind because Matt wanted to perhaps move when I was like 35 weeks pregnant with Sage because a piece of land came up on the water. And I was like, absolutely not. We thought about it. I said, absolutely not. I'm not into it. And now, like my idea, my perfect world would be that we would stay here until the kids graduate, until they're off to go do their own thing, which is kind of what my parents did too. Like we had our, home growing up and then they moved.
Yeah.
But like I would love to live on the water because the water brings me peace. It makes me feel something I can't even explain. Probably bringing it back to my cottage and just looking out at the lake. I'd love to live on the water. I'm going to say the ocean, but like let's be real here. You think the ocean's great and then you live on it and it's like the wind is just blowing you every direction every 2 seconds. So I'd love to live on the lake and I'd love to have almost like a bungalow, but Matt's going to say it's not a bungalow because it has a basement. So it's not technically a bungalow. I don't think. Maybe bungalows do have basements.
I know there's nothing above a bungalow. Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe you can have a bungalow with a basement. I don't know.
Like I would love to just have, it doesn't need to be big. I don't need a lot of space. Just one floor, and then the floor underneath in the basement is perfectly curated for the kids and grandkids and whoever that wants to come and stay. And it doesn't interrupt our top floor. Like we still have our things going. And then they can come and go as they please. Because let's be honest, you think your kids are going to leave and they come rolling back through many a times. I know it because I did it.
That's the best, though.
I know.
You want your kids sticking around a little bit, right? A little bit.
I think so. We don't know. We haven't been there yet, but I think so. And then we'll go off and travel. Like that would be the dream, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
Empty nesters and what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everything you said is probably like pretty aligned with what I think. Like I pretty much think that exact same thing.
Yeah.
Like I look at to your very last point there about the kids kind of sticking around a little bit here and there. It's like, I think about my relationship specifically with my father.
Yeah.
And I'm like really proud of it. Mm-hmm. I love that I'm close to Dad and that we get to hang out. And like my dad's one of my best friends in the world. Like I can't wait to just hang out with Dad.
Yeah.
And like go up to the cottage and head out on the side-by-side and frig around by DeBert Lake and stuff and go back in the blueberry field and everything. Like it's so like I really hope. It's kind of funny because the way that life ended up with you, you're quite far from your parents in proximity, but like I really hope that our kids like sort of stay semi close to us. just so that we can have those awesome relationships with them, because our kids are kick-ass. Like, I love them all so much.
That is a very big struggle, though, when your kids move away. And like, we have 3, let's say they all move away to different places. I can only imagine how difficult that would be, because like you said, how lucky are you? Your mom and dad live in Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
So you get to have your mom pop in, you get to go up to the cottage with your dad. But you know, when you don't have that, it can definitely be like straining on relationships from all places.
Yeah.
And that, you know, has been really hard on me. I think it's gotten easier because now I've lived here for 8 years.
Yeah.
That like, this is what it is. But like, I had a really hard time at first being away from my parents.
I know you did.
Because I lived at home. Like, I moved from home to come be with you.
Yeah.
And you were the first man I ever lived with. Like,
Actually?
officially. Well, I mean, I lived with Bleep, but like back and forth. Like, I was still living at home and I would go to his condo back and forth. But I never like had shit in there. Right. Whereas like when I moved in with you, I was like, oh my, like, this is where I'm staying. Like, we are living together. But you had experience. I mean, you had lived with your 2 exes before that. Like, you were used to living with a woman.
Well, yeah.
And you taught me a lot, really, about when, like, having a room. I'm serious.
The Oracle.
Yeah. No, but you did. And it was a big adjustment. It was, living with like your partner for me back then. Because like I said, I had never done it before.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, you brought up another thing too when you were talking about the traveling there, and when I so rudely interrupted you and said it's humbling, but since Tim and I started Dose about 6 years ago, like, I've been very fortunate to do quite a bit of traveling up until COVID happened. But I was able to go to California, and we went up to Yosemite and hiked all through friggin' San Francisco and the Mirror Forest and everything, which was like one of the craziest places ever. But then we went over to Japan for 10, 11 days or something like that. And I found that to be so interesting. Like, getting on an airplane and going to like the exact opposite side of the world and realizing that people over there are struggling the same way that we are here. Like, everyone's on the same mission in life, which is like, love your family, love your friends, eat,
Work,
create offspring, work, make money. It's like, I think sometimes you just get caught up in all the crazy day-to-day shit. Like, I know I do. I'm super bad for it because I read so much of the news and stuff, and you get like inundated with this stuff all the time. But then you hop on an airplane and go somewhere and you look, and there's just like beautiful humans all around the world, all doing the exact same stuff.
And, I think travel for you was really great because, like you said, there was a time, especially, well, I guess, no, this timeline doesn't really add up, but I was going to say that, during COVID and maybe a little bit before it, that I found that you were having a really hard time. You were in your head a lot, watching a lot of videos and taking it all in. And I think, when you travel, like you said, it just kind of brings you back to life a little bit,
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's, you get a home or you get an apartment and you get a job and you start falling in this routine day to day.
Yeah.
And you basically...
And you kind of have to.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, your iPhone tracks where you're going all the time.
Yeah.
It literally tracks your every move. And you can actually go in and see where you've been the last 30 days, last 60 days. And, like, I bet you most of the people watching, if you go in there and look at it,
Show
it's
me
like...
your phone. No, I'm just
yeah. Who's that?
Yeah.
But, like, you're basically just staying in the same radius all the time. And like I said, when you get on an airplane and you go somewhere, you drive somewhere far away, it's so refreshing to just see that, like, there's other walks of life out there and other people that are all existing and cohabitating on this amazing planet that we have. Like, it's, I don't know, Japan for me was really, really cool because the people there, it wouldn't be a stretch to say they were the nicest people I've ever met. Like, Tim and I went to some random restaurant in Kanizwana, I think is how you pronounce it. And we went to this random restaurant at like 8 or 9 at night, and we went down and like had some drinks that we couldn't pronounce and sat there eating sushi and everything. And this couple next to us that were sitting there with another guy, kind of like, they couldn't even really speak English at all, but we, like, through body language and stuff, kind of invited us over to sit with them. And so here we are, 3 people from Japan, 2 white boys from Canada, sitting at a table together, interacting with each other even though we couldn't understand each other.
That's so cool.
And they ended up buying our whole meal and all of our drinks and everything.
That's so
and it was
nice.
like I walked out of there with like a tear in my eye. I was just like, God, the world is awesome. Like,
I
what
love
a
that.
cool experience. And they smoke in the bars there, like they smoke in the restaurants.
Oh.
So like we're sitting in this restaurant, like smoking in Japan's super prevalent. Like
Yeah.
everybody smokes. I'm stereotyping, but they do. Like you go into restaurants and there's like clouds of smoke.
Well,
and
you're
shit.
still allowed to smoke there, is what you're saying too. So it's obviously everywhere.
Yeah. So anyway, like we're sitting in this like dark, kind of like grungy little
Yeah.
bar atmosphere, eating
Wow.
sushi and drinking like weird drinks and stuff. And like I said, just being at a table with people that you almost can't even understand anything they're saying, but we're laughing and interacting.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things where you're just like, it was just a nice reminder that the world is an awesome freaking place. So
And
yes,
very
that's-
humbling, like you said. Traveling is so incredibly
is.
humbling. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because sometimes I don't know. Sometimes you just get caught up in all
Yeah.
the shit all the time.
Absolutely.
And then you go out there and you just see that someone else
Yep.
is struggling on the other side of the world. Or I keep using the word struggle, but they're out there doing things on the other side of the world that are exactly like you're doing things.
Totally.
And then you're just like, I'm not in this alone.
Yep.
All 8 billion of us are
Right.
all doing kind of the same thing, trying to figure life out.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, we're going to have this house. The kids are going to be here. And we're going to go fart around, do some traveling stuff. It's gonna be
Yeah.
awesome.
It is going to be awesome.
So
So
see more of the world.
also into that, did you always want kids? Mm-hmm. Oh, Matt just spilt on his very nice coat. You need to stop drinking on this
You
podcast.
answer that first.
Oh
Did
my
you always
gosh.
want kids?
Did I always want kids? So I remember when I was like 14 or 13 and I pretended I was sick. Maybe I was like, I had my period or something and I was able to stay home. But I used to watch Maury. You obviously remember Maury.
Povich, the
There's
man.
nothing better than when you were a kid and you were watching Maury on a sick day. And then remember on the remote,
It's
there'd
so
be like
funny.
a,
I have the same thing.
I remember there's like a back button, so I quickly had it on something else. Right, as soon as my
Oh
parents
my
would come in, I'd switch it over. You know,
Oh,
I
you're
was allowed
watching
to watch
Care
more.
Bears, huh?
Exactly. But I remember there was like one specific episode, and it came on every so often about girls that really wanted to have babies.
Yeah.
And they would come on and they'd be like, oh, I want a baby, blah, blah, blah. And then they would send them to like this boot camp almost.
Yeah.
Where they had kids. I don't know if it was like, I can't remember if it was a doll or if people actually like gave them their babies for the day. I honestly don't
remember.
know.
They had those fake like realistic baby things that like cry all night long and
Right.
everything. Yes.
So I remember sitting on the other end on my couch, you know, eating my chips, and I'd be like, send me to the camp. Like, send me. I know what I'm doing. So to say that, yes, I wanted kids from as young as I could remember. And I think that's half the time why I was always like, this relationship's going to work. This relationship's going to work. Because I just always was
Just want
thinking
a
about
baby.
Yeah. And, you know, I was younger, but I had neighbors across the street that had 3 younger children. And I would go over there almost every day and sit in their basement. My God, they must have loved me. Like I was like a babysitter, a built-in babysitter. They weren't giving me any money. I would just go downstairs and play with the kids. I always loved kids. I always wanted kids. I mean, it's why I became a teacher, really, because I wanted to be around kids.
Yeah.
Like kids are so cool. So anyway, yes, I always wanted children. And that's why when you came into my life and you had, you know, been a stepdad for 8 years or however long that was, in and around there, I was thinking like, you know, I'm not going to lie a little bit. I was like, okay, yeah, this guy definitely wants kids. And he's been a dad for however long now. And like, this is great.
Look how handsome he
Yeah.
is. We're definitely gonna make cute
Yeah,
babies.
Exactly. But you always wanted kids too?
Yeah.
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 Is there like a time that you remember being like, yeah, I want kids?
No, I'm just trying to think. Like in my family and like with my cousins and everything, I was one of the oldest, second from being the oldest. Like so like when the cousins would come over, like I've always had my family pretty close. Like I always kind of did that same thing. Like I would almost like babysit or like hang out with the kids a lot and stuff. And I almost kind of had the foresight to know that kids kind of keep you young at heart. Like when you're too old to watch Moana, when you have kids, it's like you can still watch Moana.
Yeah.
I can put Frozen 2 on and not feel weird about it and
Yeah.
shit. And like I love that. I love kids. They're just awesome. They see the world through a different lens, right? Like especially where I'm in advertising and marketing and branding, like that's what I do. I'm a creative.
Yeah.
I find sometimes like you can kind of be like abused by time a little bit. Like the older you get, you kind of the world has like a tendency to like kind of suck the life out of you a little bit. You flip on CNN every day and it's like, oh my God, like, is this where we're at? But then you look at your kids and they don't give a shit about anything. The only thing they care about is making sure there's like a few bear paws in the cupboard and like, and that the big wheels out in the garage and everything. And like, and I don't know, I just find like being around kids is refreshing because they're not jaded by life yet. Like they see things differently and they bring the best out in me.
I love that.
Yeah.
I totally agree. And actually, yesterday we were at the splash pad, which you had mentioned, and I did want to cut you in earlier and say that we were at the First Lake one in Sackville, and it's so wonderful. But so if anybody ever wants to go to a splash pad in Halifax, that's an awesome area for the kids with the lake, the splash pad, and the playground.
Yeah, what lake is that?
I don't know.
I think of how you'd tell
it's
people.
Called First Lake. It's First Lake.
It's called First Lake.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, Matt wasn't actually listening either. But I was going to say that there was a little boy there around the same age as Sage, but he spoke French. You probably weren't paying attention, but over by the little kiddie spot.
Oh, okay.
And anyway, they were chatting, like they were playing. They didn't even understand each other, but they were making it work. And I just think that's cool to think back to when you were just talking about when you were in Japan and how, you had that experience and you walked away from it thinking this is amazing. Whereas kids have those types of experiences all the time. Yeah. And they're so cool like that, right? Like they don't judge, they don't do anything. They're just living their lives. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's awesome.
Life is so simple to them.
Yeah.
And I love the way that kids will like walk up to a playground and just make friends.
Do you want to be my friend?
Like Theodore especially. It's absolutely ridiculous. The guy will just walk up to anyone and just basically say, will you be my friend?
I actually noticed that Kai is quite good at that now too. Like she will go up and say like, do you want to be or what's your name? And she usually tackles the one-on-one situation rather than like going into a group. But our kids are really good at that. And that's so cool. Like why can't adults just go into the restaurant like, hey, you want to be friends?
Well, you can. We just don't do it.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
Everybody.
Sorry, I'm trying to.
I'm
trying to get the topics.
No, but here's what's up though. Kids. We were all kids at one point.
Yeah.
We all. Inside of each and every one of us is a kid that's just 37 years old, 42 years old. Yeah. And like I noticed it a lot when I used to take Metro Transit. Like when I used to take the bus around the city, you'd notice that people just sit down in their little silos and they won't even like look over or say like hi to the person next to them. But every time that I get on the bus, I would always get on, sit with a random and talk to them. Sit on the airplane. Everyone knows what that's like. You sit on an airplane and you talk to the person next to you and you realize like 9 times out of 10, they like put their iPad down or whatever and they're like game to shoot the shit. Like everyone wants to feel friendly and have those conversations, but adults don't do it.
Well, I remember actually when I was flying back with Kaya from Ottawa on Easter and there was a woman beside me. And granted, I find it's a little bit difficult because you still need to wear masks on the airplane. So sometimes it's hard to have those conversations unless, of course, you're eating and drinking. So I was eating the entire time. Her and I, like you sort of, I forget how we started talking, maybe because I was reading Colleen Hoover and she was asking me, but we ended up talking for the whole hour and a half. And I think a lot of times people do, I mean, some people just straight up don't want to talk to you and that's who they are. But I think a lot of times people do want to have those conversations. They just don't know how to kind of like lean into it, So you kind of need like a person on the other end to go up and be like, hey, how's it going? Like, where are you flying to? What's your life story?
Yeah.
And almost always, from my experience, people want to open up and they want to chat. And airplane rides are very cool, especially because you're never going to see that person again. Unless maybe like they happen to live in the same area and you bump into them. But I have had so many random airplane conversations with people that are just super, super cool. And then it's like, okay, see you never.
Yeah. Yeah. Follow me on Instagram.
Yeah.
Sure, no, they're poaching people to follow.
Whenever people ask me what I do for a living, I kind of stall every time. And I just say I'm a content creator. And they're probably like, what the heck is that? But I'm never like, I'm an Instagram person. And then if they pry a little bit, they're like, well, what's content creator? I'm like, well, like, I advertise for like companies and stuff and on Instagram. And they're like, oh, you're one of those. That's literally what they say. And I'm like, yeah, it's too bad that we have that reputation. But anyhow.
Do you want to talk about it or?
Sure. I mean, like,
how do you really feel about it? You seem like you felt some kind of way.
No, I think I've just grown accustomed to having that sort of mentality and people having that mentality when they think of Instagram and people that are influencers. I'm using air quotations if anybody's not watching this. My opinion is that anybody can be influential. You could have 200 followers and influence 200 people to go anywhere, right? I think like anything, there's there's bad people that give it a bad rep. You know, there's people that come off inauthentic. I just think Instagram is such an interesting thing from when it started. And we've all obviously kind of been here for the evolution of Instagram, right? Like everybody that's watching this kind of saw the way it came and how it started and what it started off as. And if you think back on it, it was literally nothing but a place to post pictures. Now there's so much to it. But I mean, I think I don't defend the influencer world anymore because I just don't care to. I think if you follow me, then you understand what I'm about, and I try to be relatable. Actually, when I was down at the beach the other day, down at our beach, there was a woman that came up to me, and she was probably, I don't know, maybe like 50, 55. And she's like, I follow you. And I was like, do you? And we ended up having this awesome chat. And when she walked away, she said, thank you for being so relatable and authentic or whatever. And she walked away, and I was like, how cool is it that I have a woman that's 55 years old saying that she watches me.
That's awesome.
And feels like I'm relatable. Like that's really all I want. You know what I mean? Like that's what brings me joy. So I'll have other people that are like, oh, influencers. And I'm kind of like, whatever, because I have this cool woman that just came up to me and said that. And I love that. Like that makes me so happy. And then I'll have people from all different walks of life that will, say the same things to me, which is also this weird, I don't know how to describe it, but in the position I'm in when people are messaging me from all different places, live different places, are in different types of relationships, have kids, don't have kids, like everything. And I find that we're all actually a lot more alike than we realize, right?
Yeah.
And that's something cool that I get to experience when people message me, because I see that and I see how we're all actually kind of alike,
Yeah.
You just don't always see it when you just like, I don't know anyway. But no, the influencer world, I don't know. I don't know why I still do it. I don't know why people still ask me what I do. And I just say I'm a content creator, but it's just habit maybe at this point. I don't know.
The thing that I find really interesting about all of it is that people are confused by what it is. Like I'm trying to think of how to articulate this. It'd almost be better if I wrote it down. Like I feel like I could write a whole thesis on this thing. But when people used to sit down and watch Full House, there was product placements in Full House.
Right.
Like for those of you who don't realize, there was a Pepsi sitting on the table every time, or a Coke, or a bag of Shreddies and shit. Every one of those companies paid $100,000 to put that box of Shreddies on that show.
Right.
And people would sit there and tune in to just kind of zone out and get into like fake people's lives.
Right.
And then reality television kind of started popping off when I want to say Paris Hilton was probably a big part of that.
The Simple Life, it was called. Her and Nicole Richie, yeah?
Yeah. And then there was kind of like this paradigm shift where people started getting more into like real people's life. Mm-hmm. And then now people are like hyper obsessed with the Kardashians and the Jersey Shores and shit like that.
Yeah.
Like there's been this whole shift in the way that we consume content and TV shows and stuff now, right?
Yeah.
And like Instagram and TikTok and all these applications are kind of like a natural evolution of entertainment.
Right.
And now rather than sitting down and watching things like Full House and stuff, people spend more times on their phones consuming real people's content.
Yeah.
So you and people like you, like that influencer kind of space and content creators, like people frown upon you, but they're eating it up.
Right.
People like being into other people's lives and hearing their stories, and kind of in a roundabout way, it's like the situation on the bus, like sitting down talking to strangers. It's like strangers love hearing about your life.
Right.
And I like my argument when people kind of shit on what you do for a living, because people hate on it all the time. And it's kind of a really interesting thing, because it's like, did you prefer it when Morgan Freeman sold you a Kia on TV, even though you know damn well Morgan Freeman ain't driving a Kia? Like, did you prefer that?
Right.
Did you like it when Brad Pitt sold it to
Right.
you on Channel 52?
Right.
Because now you're actually seeing, if people do what you do well, and they're not sellouts and shit, like, you're authentic about what you do, and you put products on a page that you actually enjoy,
Right.
and it's authentic advertising.
Yeah.
I don't know why people like hate on it so
Well,
much.
you gotta think
You
too.
always were being sold shit by people you didn't know.
But I guess also in that realm as well, now it is more accessible to let people know that you're not into it, right? Whereas perhaps when you're watching TV, you see Jennifer Aniston wearing a Vino cream and you're like, she's not fucking wearing Vino cream. But you're just kind of saying it in the back of your mind, right? Whereas now people have, the access to message somebody and say things, which you didn't have before.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely see what you're saying. And there was another point I wanted to bring about I was gonna say, like, one thing that I personally think is great about Instagram, because you were talking about celebrities, or sorry, not celebrities, like actors and actresses, is that I think that it's incredible now that you can follow people that you relate to, whether that be sizing or anything like that.
Thank you. Yes.
Like, for example, this shirt I'm wearing, I just talked about it on my stories. I'm like, I'm wearing extra large, I'm 5'9", I'm 170 pounds, and this is what it looks like on me, rather than just seeing an airy, commercial fly by the screen, and it's just whoever and whatever. I mean, we're a lot more body inclusive now, but I just feel like having the personal experience, like, is so much better.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, I think
It's more wholesome. There's more to it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like anything, like any job, like anything, anywhere, there's always going to be people that ruin it for other people, and people that make something seem fake, or that they're inauthentic, and then they just blow it for everyone else. And I think that really stinks. But I think that people are more understanding of who you follow. If you want to follow them, press that unfollow button. But I still, I do a lot better now. I do mostly tell people what I do, but I'm still a little bit apprehensive about it. And I honestly don't.
You shouldn't be.
No, I know.
You shouldn't be, because people have been consuming this content forever. It's more real and cool and awesome than it's ever been.
Right.
We're in such a cool space right now. And to one of the last points that you were making there about like unfollowing people. So my buddy, if people on this show don't know who he is, his name's Ross Simmons, and he's a frigging amazing marketing guru. Love you, Ross. Shouts out, Ross. He runs a company called Foundation, and he has this really cool thing that he stands by, where he says, he kind of, and I'm going to butcher this a little bit, but he talks about how with almost everything in your life, you'll filter it. Like when you eat, you'll like watch what you eat. You probably shouldn't have pizza 7 times a week. Like being cognizant of the things that you're putting in your body, or exercise, or whatever it is. He talks about just like how we do this in our lives, but we don't very often filter the content that we consume. And he was just talking about how it's a dangerous game, because if all you do is sit there and watch CNN all day, which I can be really bad for kind of consuming negative content, but like, you kind of like, you are what you eat kind of thing. And when you sit there and you just consume and consume and consume things that you don't enjoy, then like shut it off and start trying to filter more of the things that you like, that you like and don't like. Like create a feed that you enjoy actually scrolling through. And I think, like, to touch on you for a sec, like yes, I'm biased AF because you're my wife, but like I'm proud of you for being who you are. Thanks. Like and to echo that same sentiment that you heard on the beach the other day, I hear that all the time. Every person that I bump into that's like, I know your wife, like even in PI the other day at that freaking skateboard shop, she was like, she's so relatable. Yeah. And it's like, that's what people say about you. It's not like, oh, she's so hot, or like,
no, what did you say?
Her car's so dope or something. It's, she's relatable.
Yeah.
That's
you were
your
talking
brand.
about that at PEI, and you were like, you're like kind of put together, but not. Your hair's a little frizzy, but also nice. You're like, you got makeup on, but you don't. And he's
you got
like,
2 boobs, but one's huge and one isn't.
No, but it's true. Relatable is actually one of the best compliments that I could get.
It is the best one you could get.
Right. For me, maybe not for everybody, but for me, it totally is. Maybe some people want to hear they have the best car and the best house, and that's what they thrive off of, but not me. And
but at the end of the day, they want to be relatable to somebody.
To a different
Because
crowd.
if you ain't relating with anyone, then you have no brand.
Yeah, that's true.
Like something that we preach when Tim and I are pitching brand projects is that a brand is a person's gut feeling about a product, service, or entity. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people think it's like the shiny logo on the wall, or the logo on the back of your phone or whatever, but it's not. It's a person's feeling about you,
right,
or your product,
right,
or your business.
Yeah.
That's what a brand is, and your brand is that you're relatable to people.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a special, cool thing that you should really try. Well, you will harness that forever. It's who you are.
Yeah.
Oh, frizzy hair share.
I know, I keep touching. I'm like, oh man, it is so frizzy. No, but I was actually going to touch on your point when you were talking about the like unfollowing negative stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I actually do think that is so important. I mean, I know people follow people just to be haters. It just is what it is. There's a hate follow. It's like a term. I don't know why people do it, but sometimes you do. even I am guilty of going and creeping people that I'm like not overly fond of perhaps, but I'm like, well, what are they up to? We all do it. I don't know why. But I was going to say, I remember when I announced that I was pregnant with Sage, and I was cognizant, that's the right word, I think, right?
Maybe.
Of popping on my stories and saying, after I announced it, I was like, I completely understand if this is difficult for you, if this is something that, you're struggling with or whatever, please unfollow me. And like,
for people that may be trying.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And I was like, just please unfollow me. And that's something like that, like you said, that's so important to just press that unfollow button if something's, upsetting to you or it's not working out, and like, don't feel bad for doing it.
Yeah.
Truly. Like, I remember, I actually remember because it was hard for a while for me to like deal with that, and it is, and I don't know why, but I'm definitely far removed from it now. But when people would unfollow me, I even took the time to try and see who they were for quite a while. And I remember, Jeremy, we'll bleep his name out too, but
oh, he is swag.
Yeah, like I remember, actually you'd probably be like, this is funny, Sheridan, post it. But or post it. I'm so in my Instagram mind. Talk about it.
Make that the real.
Yeah, but I remember when I was when I saw that he unfollowed me, and I was legitimately butthurt because we know him. He's a friend.
That was butthurt worthy.
But however,
Jeremy, where'd you go, bro?
No. But I confronted him about it, and
That's awesome.
I was actually really like, when he told me his answer, I was like, duh, Sheridan. Like, he was like, Sheridan, I don't have kids. I don't care about listening about your baby products and that you're talking about right now. Like, it's just not relatable to me. And I was like,
I love that he told you straight up instead of going like, oh, it was a finger slip.
Yeah. Oops. No, and I was like, you know what? It's a great point. He's like, I still love you. When I see you, I'm going to give you a big old hug. Like, you're great. He's like, I'll follow Matt, but like, I don't care about what you're posting about. And I was like, okay, this is really valid.
Where is he these days? I haven't talked to him in forever.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. But that's just the point.
He's got enough airtime, bro.
Yeah.
We're moving along.
But all to say, like, it was a point where I was like, oh, great point. So even I do it sometimes too now. I just unfollow people that don't serve anything for me, and everybody should be doing that, really.
Yeah.
This is another one actually that kind of goes into that. Do you ever worry about sharing too much online? I guess that's kind of mostly pointing towards me, but also you, because I post a lot of our life online with our kids and everything. Like, you're part of that too. Our whole life is online. Even this podcast, like, everything's online.
Yeah.
So do you worry about sharing too much online?
Well, we already covered this.
What?
We did like a whole thing on this in like episode 1 or 2 or something.
What did we say?
Oh my God. We talked about how like I was totally cool with it, but I filter some of my like things around religion, et cetera, et cetera.
No.
Like,
but I guess it's sharing too much online. They're talking more about like your family and the fact that our kids' faces are out there to the world, and everybody. Like, even the other day when we were out to eat at Fry Daddy's, the girl goes, I knew I recognized you, and then I heard you say your daughter's name. So like, she knew Kaya, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, we kind of have created this life where sort of everybody knows our kids,
it's everything. A little weird. It's a little weird sometimes when you sit there and think that like, without their consent, we've kind of turned our children into like public figures, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's a little weird, but at the same time, like, of the three of them, the one that seems to be embracing it is Kai. Like, it's kind of funny. Like,
can we take a picture?
Oh, it's super funny. Watch her, but
I also think though that if the time comes, like, there's been many times too where our kids are like, we don't want to take pictures. I'm like, totally get that. Like, respect that for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it just happened naturally without me realizing what I was doing, maybe. Like, again, back to Instagram, like, the whole reason why my Instagram started and why I started a blog was because I wanted to post about Kaya's birth story. Mm-hmm. I didn't really have intentions of it leading to where it did. A lot of people will ask me, how did you start? Like, because they're interested as well. To which my answer is...
Make this a new episode. That's a whole episode. I love that.
Well, I'm just going to touch on it for 1 sec, though, and say that my answer is I don't even really know where to start because it just happened naturally. It's not like I applied for a job and got into it and then like worked my way up into something else.
Yeah.
It just kind of happened. It literally just kind of happened for me. So I think that in my mind, I wasn't thinking about like, oh, well, what about when our children, if everybody knows who they are, because I didn't think it would happen.
Yeah.
Like, I was just posting about Kaya's birth story so that I could share it with people that could, find something to relate to or wanted to read something or whatever.
Yeah.
And now it's turned into this whole thing, where Kaya's at school and she's like, oh, this teacher follows you and whatever.
It'll come up at some point. Like, at some point in time as our kids get older, there's going to be a time of reflection when we look back on the last 15 years or whatever and just like really like absorb what's happened and how times have changed and everything. And I think that the pros and cons of this, even though they've really had not much of a say in this, I think the pros heavily outweigh the cons. I think that you've nurtured a life where you've been able to be around your kids all day, every day. I mean, they're in school now and stuff, but I mean, you were there through all of their childhood rather than just being that kind of 12 to 8 month grace period that new moms get from work and from government help and stuff. Yeah. You were able to be there from day one right through day 1500 of the beginning of their lives. So it's like, I think when we look back on it and reflect, it'll be like, yeah, you did that. But at the same time, Mom, you did an amazing job of raising us, and you were always there for us, like literally.
I honestly don't think about this much because I actually do think that it is a pretty heavy topic because there's a lot of parents that choose not to post things online. There's a lot of weird, fucked up stuff that happens on the interwebs. And I find if I think too long about it, and maybe this is naive of me, but I just get so caught up in my own head that I'm just like, oh my God, should I just throw my phone in the ocean and burn everything? And like, right? But then at the same time, I try to remind myself that like, this is life now. Everything is online. Everything everywhere is online. Like kids are consuming, like you said, TikTok, like everything is just online now. And so I try to give myself a little bit of grace because I'm like, it's definitely an interesting subject. I do think that if our kids, when they grow up and when they have a say, like Kaya now, she loves posting pictures and like taking pictures. She loves knowing when they go up, what people say. Like she reads the comments at this point, which is great. But I also know that if she said no, like delete all my pics, Mom, not into that, I'd be like, absolutely no problem. 100%.
And one thing that I could say, and we can get off this, is like it's not like you've ever exploited them
of course.
No, but not exploiting them like Ghislaine Maxwell
mean?
Exploiting. I mean, like exploiting them is everything that you've ever done with the children was like wholesome content. You know what I mean? It's never like they were. I don't really want to point fingers around, but I mean, there's some of the shit. Like, what was Netflix in trouble for with the like little dancers and they're shaking their ass on Netflix and everything? It was like, it's a little weird. Like we're talking, like our kids have kind of, they've been a part of like wholesome content. It's like wearing like Joe Fresh clothes and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Unfortunately, though, in the interweb world, it does not matter.
Yeah, you're right.
They will do and take anything and work with it. Yeah. And so again, I don't really want to talk about it because it's too deep and dark. And
we've been going for an hour and 10.
Oh wow.
Do you have what do you want to wrap it up with? Let's do one more.
Okay.
That took a dark turn at the end. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah. Hold on a sec.
Sheridan gave me the eye there. She was like, "Hey, don't go down this rabbit hole."
Yeah, we don't need to do that. This show is meant to be lighthearted. There's no deep dark rabbit hole, but that did kind of get a little twisted there. So okay, hold on. So wait a minute. There's a couple. When did you know I was the one?
When did I know you were the one?
Was there any specific moment that you knew I was the one? Or is there a moment that you can think of that you're like, yeah, this is it? Because I actually have
that's one that I might need a second for. You go first.
Okay, so I have definitely a couple of memories that like stick with me, but one specific, well, there's a couple.
I don't know these. What is that?
Well, I'll never forget when I was so upset, and this was like at the very beginning, and I'm not to say that I knew you were the one like for my forever, but I knew that I was like, this is the guy, like I really really like this guy, was when I called you because I was having a really hard time dealing with my ex, and I was so upset, and I was like crying on the floor, and I was so sad, and we had just started talking, me and you, and there was like an overlap, right? Because when you came into my life, I was definitely still heartbroken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I wasn't trying to hide anything from you, obviously, but I was still kind of like on the teetering side of, do I go to this guy to try and talk to him about this and like get comfort, or do I just deal with this on my own and move along?
Yeah.
But I messaged you. I called you actually, and I went downstairs in the basement and was crying to you about it. You probably don't remember this, but I was crying, and you were giving me like comfort and words of advice, and then you told me to listen to Three Little Birds, and you sent it to me. And I just remember thinking, like, I was like, this guy is a special guy that, like, I'm calling you to talk to you about that. And
I'm going to cry here, literally.
No, but I'm serious. And I remember being like, well, that guy's something special because, like, almost every other, if that would have happened 9 times out of 10, it would have been like, are you fucking kidding me? Move along, go back with him or something, But that wasn't your reaction at all. Like, you were comforting and loving and understanding. And then you sent me that song and I was like,
Bob Marley, Three Little Birds.
yeah. And that was a moment for me for sure where I was just like, okay, I'm keeping this guy around. And then of course we've had so many other moments. One I can think of even as well that was when we got married. And I remember thinking growing up, like, the day I get married, I'm going to be shitting my pants. Like, I'm going to be like, oh, my God, is this it? Like, what am I doing with my life? I didn't even think about it. I woke up and I was like, hey, hon, see you in a sec. Like, it wasn't a big deal. And I think for me personally, the fact that I didn't even, like, think about it, like, signing the papers. And I was like, nah, whatever,
Yeah.
To me, I was like, obviously, this is my guy. That, like, it's not even a second thought, which I think is good.
It's funny to me. Those were beautiful.
Thanks.
And thank you.
You have one.
I'm over. I'm like, oh God, trying to deflect here. So we watched.
Yeah.
But the wedding thing's really interesting because sometimes it's almost weird. I think the term's fly by night. Sometimes I think it's almost strange how much you and I just roll with life. We don't overthink anything ever. That's actually a total lie. I actually overthink just about everything, but I don't like.
But maybe not with our relationship, which is something cool, I guess.
No, here's what I'm going to say. The way I worded that was really weird because I actually overthink so much shit, but I never let it hold me back. And neither do you. I know you think about shit all the time too, and neither one of us really ever lets it hold us back from our dreams or anything. We just kind of go for it. Like when we bought this house, people were like, what? And it was like, yeah. And then here we are, and it's bomb, and everyone loves our house, and we love our house, and our kids love it, and everything, like, with everything in life. So, it's just kind of funny you'd say it. Like I'm thinking back on our wedding day, it was like, I wasn't even remotely nervous. It was like I'm putting a ring on the woman that I am obsessed with. It was, blah, blah, blah. It was like, there's nothing more to this. Like, it was like, I know sometimes in movies and shit you'll see, and they're like, does anyone have an objection or anything? It's like, there was none of that. We had like a little curated small amount of people there, and we just went for it. I mean, she's waiting for her
I am.
yeah.
Give me some.
Oh man, yours were way cuter. You had time to think about it.
I did not. I swear on my life, I didn't think about it. I just read it and it just came to me immediately.
You wrote that shit down. So
No.
Well, you knew the bullet. You knew that we might talk about it. So you had like a couple little.
No, I didn't.
Couple little nuggies in there. Okay, so one thing that happened. I'm sweating over here. Is it good? No, but one thing that so you're scratching his neck. One thing
just
that
hoping the mics turn off, right?
So I'll get to the other one second, but I think when you and I first got together, we did the long distance thing, and so we weren't around each other. Like we kind of fell in love over a telephone. And I don't even really think we were really FaceTiming that much. Like, I want to say we were just straight up just talking on the phone.
I don't think we FaceTimed
And I pretty much fell in love with you. Yeah. And then I remember the very first time that I came to see you, you had purchased Ottawa Senator tickets for us. Mm-hmm. And I was really excited because like I grew up in Ottawa and hadn't been back in so long, like 18 years or something, like some crazy amount of time. And you went out of your way and bought these Ottawa Senator tickets, and Ottawa was always my favorite team. So like it was just such a thoughtful and cute thing to do, and I was so excited to go to a Sens game. So we had this whole thing booked. Like your dad dropped us off at the hotel. Like I brought my damn jersey to Ottawa and like you had yours. We had the hats. We were like rocking and ready to go, and like we were getting ready to like Uber out of the hotel or whatever. Like we were ready to go to this damn game in like an hour. It was like go time, get a burger and go watch the game. Sheridan looks at the tickets and goes, these tickets are for next weekend's game. You got the tickets on the wrong damn date.
Where's this story going?
But I remember the fact that like we didn't even care. It was like we laughed about it. It was like this ridiculous thing, and you got the tickets for. And I just remember the reaction from both of us was like, I guess we could stay at the hotel and have some fun here and laugh about shit here and everything. But it was like we didn't get it didn't turn into a big deal that it didn't need to be. The fact that you frigged up the day that we were going to the hockey game, like that's such a Sheridan thing to do. And I think that was like, that's not like a monumental moment in time, but it was really cute. And I kind of fell in love with how stupid that whole scenario was. And I was like, I love this about Sheridan. I love that we could laugh something like that off.
That wasn't a big deal.
I don't know. Was that a lame thing?
No.
I fell in love with you right there at the canceled sentence.
That's how you fell in love with me?
No, but that was like a really cute thing that I remember. I remember that as being that was when I was first kind of hanging out with you. That was like date 1.
It was.
And you fucked the whole thing up, and we laughed about it. It was really cute. And then the other thing that I wanted to say is one time we were on the phone and I said to you on the phone, I was like, I want you to write 100 reasons why you like me in it and put them in a jar. And you actually wrote 100 reasons why you love me as a person. 100 reasons. Cut them up into little rectangles on different colored paper, folded them up and put them in a jar.
I know.
And then you brought the jar down from I want to say you brought, no, maybe you, excuse me, maybe I saw it in Ottawa. I think I came up to Ottawa to visit you in our time, and you were like, hey, here's your jar. I actually did it. And I went through each and every one of them, and they were like 100 thoughtful things.
I'm a thoughtful gal.
Like every one of them was like something really cute.
Yeah.
Cute.
Where's
Everyone
the
was
jar? We have the jar somewhere.
It's upstairs somewhere in the storage room.
We should go find it, and then next episode we can show the jar.
Yeah, it was really cute.
Yeah, it was cute.
And that for me was like I don't even love 100 things about myself. I was like, that's crazy. Like it's like, what? I can think of like 5.
Okay, we need to get out of here because we're actually going to New Brunswick. Did we say that already at the beginning? I can't remember.
think so. We're going to Moncton.
Yeah, so we're going to Moncton, and and the kids, it's their last day of school. We're going to pick them up a little bit early, and we're going to wrap it up here. So, you know me, I have to pack all the things, get everything ready, pack the van up to the brim, and then head off only for one night. I don't know what it is with that, but it's like when you pack for kids for one night and a week, it's the exact same amount of things.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I got to go pack. Matt's got to keep working, I guess.
Yeah, I got some stuff I got to get done.
That's that. So, episode 6.
That was episode 6.
Yeah, thanks
Crazy.
for being
Here
here,
we
guys.
are. We're going to
Yeah.
keep going. Love
See you
man.
next week.
Yeah, like and subscribe. Do it, please. We love you.
Bye.
All right. Peace.
Who are those kisses for?
It's the Two Gems Podcast.